Okay, everyone. So I got this all set up and it's going into YouTube. And we are going to be talking about the Great Divide. Now, you know that I have talked about this before. And when I talk about this, a lot of people are a little bit uncomfortable with what do I exactly mean by this. Okay, so astrologically, we're going to be talking about Uranians. We're going to talk about Plutonians. And what is a Plutonian? What is a Uranian? There's also Neptunians and Saturnites or Saturnians as well. However, we're just going to be focusing on Plutonians and Uranians before. If you want to know, if you're questioning whether you're a Uranian or not, you're going to have to go back into my into my library of my YouTube videos, and I talk specifically about that. Okay, so before we get started, I do want to share with my Facebook peeps, at least, that I am indeed live now and where they can go. The Great Divide, first of all, if you want to talk about, if you want to understand globally why we are going through this Great Divide and how we created this, then you're going to want to read my book, 101 Answers from the Universe, which you can get at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and there's one other place, but I can't remember where that is right now. And if you're getting this on Facebook, please, or even here, please feel free to share. I am going live every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, 5 at live Eastern Standard Time. And we will do readings in the end. Okay. But this one, I'll do a few readings because I would like to discover if you're a Plutonian or a Uranian. You may want to first listen for a bit to see if you even are close to fitting that bill around that. Okay. I'm just sharing in a couple of places right now. Please feel free to share with me, for me. Okay, so first, the Great Divide. The Great Divide is literally a division, and we're already feeling that division. I'm a little uncomfortable here because I'm not, okay, that's not it. I want to make sure that I am live on, I am, okay, great. And I want to see that I'm getting some questions and people are joining me. Okay. So the Great Divide is a polarized division. It's galactically and humanitarian. The reason I moved to YouTube for this type of information is because I have also a personal profile, a personal reputation on Facebook. And admittedly, I'm still reluctant to share the extreme of what I'm seeing and what I know. 10 years ago, if you were to ask me if I believed in aliens, I would have said 100% no, absolutely not. And yet, in the last 4 years, I have been following the work. I would say more than, I would say 15 years, because I did produce a show of people that had known about aliens. And that's when I started to go, that actually validated that my question about aliens was accurate, because they were really out there. However, since then, I've been following Matías de Stefano. I've been watching a lot of NASA UFO actual footages. I've been following people who have had experiences, but I have questioned people just recently on my Facebook page, and my clients and on their experiences with UFO. I personally have never had an experience with it, but I personally know people, like literally like in my immediate circle, that have, and I 100% trust their story, that they're not making this up. We're also going to be talking about, like I said, Uranian, Plutonians, and why do we feel so lonely globally on this planet. And a part of that has to be with why you want to be famous or why you want to be popular. Specifically, not everybody wants to. So don't get me wrong, not everybody wants to, but many people do, especially in this new age self-help industry. And I'm going to give you a multi-billion-dollar industry, and I'm going to give you specifics of why. So the polarization has already begun. It began in 2012. And media, news and media has a huge part in this. Although we may feel that it is a mass manipulation media, in that it contributes to psychologically diverting us into directions that's only going to support the elite or consumerism or capitalism, it also plays a very important part in this, because we need to see ourselves as a collective. And 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we only had a peripheral vision of our own locale, of our immediate surroundings. And that was a misrepresentation. And therefore, in your small area, in your small location, in your tribe, in your village, in your city, if you didn't fit in, you're kind of stuck with that, right? Unless you're going to get on your horse 150 years ago, or you were wealthy enough to have a car, you weren't going very far, right? And so you were kind of trapped in that reputation that had been bestowed on you in your area. And that definitely created a loneliness. However, we're in a global village right now. In this global village, we have an advantage of being able to realize that there's a lot of moving parts to this machine, right? And so there's a great analogy around perspective. It's actually a picture of an elephant. And they've used this in psychology for, I think, over 50 years. So a picture of an elephant, and it's a giant elephant, and it has all these little human beings all around the elephant with not microscopes, but magnifying glasses, and looking very closely and putting on their own reading glasses. And they're at all different angles. Some of them are on top, some are looking at the tail, some are looking at the hoofs, some are looking at the trunk, and they're describing their perspective. Well, this is a thick, long rope that is fraying at the end. That was the person looking at the tail, right? This is a piece of leather. That was somebody sitting on top of the elephant. Or this is a trunk. There's not a trunk, but this is a large pipe for water. And that was somebody looking closely at the trunk. So our perspective. So now we have this huge, large global perspective. And it's creating, right now in our unprecedented times, it's creating a clear divide. But this polarization is creating sort of like a twist, right? And it's a yin and yang. When you look at the yin and yang, it's creating, yin and yang is like this twist of positive and negative, feminine and masculine. And we need one, right? I've always said we need our up. There's no down without an up. There's no in without an out. There's no wet without a dry. Right? So we need this polarization. However, we have purposely been born into this time so that we contribute to that polarization. And it's just like the North Pole and the South Pole. It is necessary to keep the Earth on its axis. There's a it's magnetic pull between the two. Okay, so this is necessary. I want all of you to clearly understand that shaming, blaming, and complaining about the other side isn't going to do you any good, because the other side has to exist. If it disappears, you disappear. Simple as that. If it disappears, you disappear. I know, that's like, wrap your head around that. And that was literally a download that I just received right at this moment. Okay, so I'm a master astrologer, and I have a background education in psychology and philosophy. And I've always been fascinated what makes the human being tick, what makes them who they are. I've always felt alienated. I've always felt alien. And I learned the language of human very, very quickly, very young. If you were to talk to me as a young child, you would have thought that I was an old wise woman, because I had logical reasoning around bullying. My biggest angst when I was very young was around bullying and how wrong it was, etc. So going back to polarization and the Great Divide, this is going to happen between around 2025, give or take. Okay, so we're going to lead into it at 2024. My prediction, by the way, anybody who is around any kind of financials right now, where everything's skyrocketing. So if you're investing in real estate, if you're wanting to buy property, if you're selling now and you're wanting to buy, and you're living in an area where real estate has just skyrocketed through the roof, you want to wait till 2024, 2025. Now, I've gotten this from several different sources, as well as the 2025, if you listen to any of my 2024 as well, if you listen to any of my podcasts that I've had in the past, I talk a lot about that. In fact, I talk about it in my book, 101 Answers from the Universe. How do you know what part you play in this? Did you volunteer for this? Or are you the ones that are you part of the energy that needs to be moved around? Or are you part of the energy that's moving the pieces around? All right. Are you the pieces of the chess on the chessboard? Or are you the two players that are moving all the pieces around? Like Queen's Gambit. Was it Queen's Gambit? Yeah. About the female chess player. Or are you the audience? Right? Which one are you? Okay. So therefore, as a Uranian, and I've mentioned this before, this is how you're going to feel. I do believe in aliens. I do believe that we're not the only ones that exist on this planet. If you study a lot around the pyramids, there's just way too many questions. And if you study the pyramids at all, it's very easy for you to even slightly consider that we're not the only energy or entities in the universe, in the galaxies. So therefore, as a Uranian, this is not where you frequent. Earth is not where you frequent. And what came to me today is I've always known that I was a Uranian, but I've forgotten that I'm also a Plutonian. No wonder I have the days that I have, like today. Today was particularly hard for me emotionally. Uranians are very much like Vulcans, if you've ever watched Star Trek or know anything about Spock. And Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock on Star Trek. Amazingly, a 2-year series became history. 2 years. Star Trek was only on for 2 years, not the movies, but the actual TV show. Why? Because it resonated with so many people. With Spock, he's half human and half Vulcan, and the Vulcans do not rule or run on emotions. I believe that there's a planet out there. This was long before I was really ever a Trekkie person. And that there is a planet where we're not ruled by emotions. That doesn't mean we don't have emotions, that we don't experience happiness and glee and contentment and peace. There isn't a lot of anger and frustration and jealousy and envy, though. In fact, none at all. And therefore, as humans, we're very much ruled by that. Only humans. Nothing else on the planet is ruled by emotions. except for some animals, which is fear, which is more of an instinct of survival. Okay. They're not ruled on emotions, misplaced emotions to make day-to-day decisions like we are. Therefore, as a Uranian, you will feel detached. Your main lesson in this lifetime is to learn non-attachment. The download that I received today was that when we are in a place of detachment, as long as it doesn't come from anger, if you're in a place of detachment because you feel hurt, okay, or fear of being unloved, then you're in limbo. You're in between the attachment to constantly soothing our suffering, which creates a ton of desire, and non-attachment, which means you're not attached to emotions, needs, desire. You can feel them, you can own them, you can have them, you can experience them, you can have empathy, but you're not attached to it. Right? So when you're in a detachment, as long as it's not from anger or resentment, anger, resentment is a whole nother thing. We can talk about that another time. Then you're in limbo, you're in between, right? And that's not a bad place, not a bad place to be at all. So, but it is a lonely place because as a Uranian, we feel unusual. We feel that everybody's ruled by emotions and we don't know how to navigate ourselves around that. And when we have emotions, which is what I had today, a very emotional time, it's extremely, and I decided not to detach from it. I did a little bit, but not 100%. And it's uncomfortable, right? So Uranians are volunteers. They have volunteered to, they have a very unique gift, It is not in the traditional sense. So let's give you a mundane example. You may be a nurse, you may be a doctor, you may be in the medical field, but always you have gravitated towards energy healing or alternative medicine, or maybe spiritual mind-body connection to your physical health. And if you spent this entire lifetime sticking to medicine because you were a slave to the wage and not following your calling of it, which means you would walk around sort of at an angst or frustrated or flustered by the medical system, then you've not done what your mission was. You've not completed your mission, which was to go to the unpredictable, unprecedented, not popular side, right? Obviously, we know a lot of naturopathic, not alternative medicine is quite popular now, but it wasn't 20 years ago. It was even less 40 years ago. When you, as a Uranian, follow the path less followed, okay, follow the path less traveled, you will become successful in many ways, body, mind, and soul. You will feel successful, even if you're not making $100,000 a year. You will feel satisfied, content. No matter where you are, you can hang your hat and you will feel comfortable doing your unique, weirdo position in your job. It can be something as simple as working in a factory, working in a restaurant, and you decide to go against the status quo and fight for the underdog, right? That's a Uranian. Uranians, the obvious Uranians, not the drama queens, okay? Though it's hard to tell because sometimes the ones that are sun rulers, the drama queens, they can be doing it out of display. They're acting a part. They're pretending for attention. However, the true Uranians are a little bit more subdued, but they're different. They're wacky. You can't see it in this lighting, but this is my new me to show my Uranian side. My hair is very, very pink. This lighting and the camera is yellowing it down, but it's actually quite bright pink. Not neon, but it's pretty bright pink. And this is my way. Me doing this YouTube channel and talking about life on other planets and the Great Divide. So this is a galactic energy that's happening right now globally and galactically and universally. And that's why it's really, really intense. So as a Uranian, this is who you are. As a Plutonian, which I happen to be as well too, Uranians can be fun, light, edgy. They feel weird around a lot of people. It's hard to be one-on-one, but you know, it's a pretty high energy. It's a positive energy. It's constantly moving energy. It's an electric energy, central nervous system, and very much in the head energy. Plutonian is heavy. Okay. So Uranians will volunteer to be on Earth maybe once or maybe once in a while, right? Just to be a part of a drastic change. Whenever Earth is having a drastic shift or change, they volunteer to come in. Plutonians are, they're in for the long haul. They do this over and over again, many lifetimes, in order to assist soul families, in order to assist, soul friends and soul families and their soul tribe. And there's no high and mighty about that, because I'm not the only one. There will be other people in my soul family that's also doing that. And I know who they are. I know a couple of them and who they are, but I don't think we recognize each other, but I know who they are. So we do this over and over again. And therefore we collect a lot of karma, good and bad. That means people remember you, souls remember you. They remember the experience they had with you. And if they didn't graduate, if they didn't utilize the experience positively, then they've got an angst. They're uncomfortable with you. They're not having a good time when they're around you. And so karma follows you. When you're a Plutonian, there's a lot of karma that follows you. People that don't like you for no reason, people that get upset for the littlest of issues and cut you off, block you, like really create an extreme long-term altered relationship with you. So they start off as your brother, your mother, your sister, your friend, your best friend in grade school. A long-term relationship suddenly goes sour and you have absolutely no control over it. Nothing you can say, because they have a memory, a soul memory of the experiences that they had with you in very, very difficult times. Right. And I don't know if this is going, if I'm getting way out there for you guys, but this is where I am. So Andrea is, I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to this. Great. So hopefully we'll get some more people on here and we'll do some live readings. Now, the polarization of the Great Divide is going to happen in 2025, a little bit in 2024. And how will you know that this is happening? It's already started. The prelude has already begun. And this is around, on an earth plane, it's around the educational system, agricultural system, and pharmaceutical, all of the systems. Everything that farming, everything, consumerism, oil, gas, money, trafficking, child abuse, everything that's going on in the world that is dark, really dark, is going to come to the surface by 2025. Small things are happening right now. People are getting frustrated, especially here in Canada, because we just had a lockdown around the educational system. There are parents that are head over heels in love with this idea. Why? Because the educational system sucks and it needs to be revamped. It needs to be different. It needs to be more freedom orientated, not goal orientated. And the second one is the healthcare system. which is also going to come to surface. It's really interesting because I had a whole load of memories come up on Facebook. And one of them was me in January 6th of 2020 was myself answering a question of a client at the time lived in Australia. At the time, there was great fires in Australia, and asking, what does this all mean? Will we get out of this? When will this happen? When will we get back to normal again? And I had said, surprisingly, in that, long before we knew what COVID is, you can go on my Facebook page at Ask Holly Hall and see it. There's a screenshot of it as well. There's one where I highlighted it. And I said in there that Australia has volunteered as not a continent, but a country, to be ambassadors of change. I'd said in January 6, 2020, that they would be an ambassador of change, and they will fight. The people will fight hard for that change. I said, this is not going to be popular. I know this is not an answer that you want to hear. And I'd said then that in April, it will be like an epidemic of how hard you have to fight for change, and it will go global. I had no idea at the time that that was the pandemic, which came out in March, April. And as we know, Australia has also continued to be hit hard with the lockdowns and restrictions, the rallying in the government. So Canada, where I am, is now starting to get extremely militant and strict as well, all across the globe. I mean, all across the country. In the United States, you're fortunate enough to be more independent state to state. Each state seems to be independent of another state. We are a little bit here. Obviously, our strong points are Ontario, BC, Quebec, because they are the most populated provinces. But Canada is also one of the game changers. And the game changers, they're the ones that step up. They're the first liners. They're the ones at, the ones that are in the front row, right? So they're going to really feel it, see it, hear it. And we volunteered for that. Plutonians, you've come back to continue your mission and work with all of the people that are a part of your karmic family. So I'm going to stop that for a second because I know I got really weird on you guys. You're not used to this from me. We are going to now look at Venus in retrograde. Venus in retrograde just started. It will continue till the end of January of 2022. However, just before that, about a week before, Mercury goes into retrograde. And then in May, Jupiter goes into retrograde. So what does this mean? Jupiter just moved into Pisces. Jupiter is a very optimistic, childlike, like a 5-year-old, just very happy. Even if they fall and hurt their knees and they cry for a second, they bounce out happy in a second. They don't dwell on it. They're that 4 or 5-year-old, just every second is another opportunity for happiness and glee and laughter. We get that programmed out of us, obviously. And that's what Jupiter is. So it doesn't matter how heavy it gets, Jupiter finds a way to create optimism from it. However, it is in Pisces. Pisces rules the medical system. It also rules spirituality, alternative healing. It also rules, just a second. There she goes, my puppy. It also rules sadness, feeling alienated, alone, and victimization. So until May, when it goes, I want to be quite articulate about this. When it goes into Aries, it will go retrograde in November of 2022 as well. But in May, I think it's about mid-May, Oh, I didn't realize that as well. Okay. Yeah. So May 11th, it goes into Aries. And so does Venus as well. And Mercury is retrograde again. So what does this mean? We're going to feel victimized. We're going to feel alone. We're going to feel, I don't want to go on like this any longer. We're going to feel like we want to hide, and an alienation. But when, and this globally, but when May comes, mid-May, that's when the warrior comes out. And that's when we become, I mean, there's all hell breaks loose. We have all our barrels, all our guns, all our ammo, and we're ready to fight. And that fight is going to come in the guise of protesting. Protesting will be very, very strong. Now, I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about everything. Protesting everything. There'll be one main one. It'll be Rise of the Wise Women. That's the one that I've predicted for a while. It will be women around their children. And it will be also around first line workers. So we're talking about teachers, doctors, nurses, anyone in the healthcare industry, as well as all of the producers and the production around the healthcare industry. That one comes out to me very, very strong. And them coming out saying, we have a huge problem, and it's a lot bigger than COVID. It's a lot bigger than a pandemic, and it's been around a long time, and we're done, and it has to change. Okay, it has to change. So it's not, is COVID the elephant in the room that's bringing this forth? Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, stop fighting with each other, because everybody's right and nobody's wrong. All of this has to be brought forward. Okay. It's hard, I know, because this is creating a lot of emotional divide and alienation and suffering within families and friends. I understand that. I've gone through it myself. Right? But know the big picture. This has to happen. Okay. Now, yes, we the people, Andrea. So what I'm going to do also is I just want to scroll down to see if there's any more chat here. We're going to talk about when Mercury, so Venus is in retrograde in Capricorn. And I did a video about this earlier, and it's about who do you love, how do you love, why do you love? But I want you to take a look at your world, your globe, your environment. What do you love about it? What do you love about it? Do you love getting angry at everybody because they're not doing what you want them to do, or they are doing what they're supposed to do, and we're still in a victimized kind of situation? Is that what you love about life? Right? So you love taking your kids to the hockey, you love taking your kids to the movies, you love taking your kids to school. This has been compromised, or it's worrisome for you, and that's been taken away. Is that your love? Now break it down. What is your love? Your love is your connection to your family. Okay. What I have was yesterday, I had this conversation with my guides, and that was, I said, what's going on here? And they said, everybody is afraid. I said, well, I know everybody's afraid. And they said, no, you don't understand what they're afraid of. They're afraid of the unknown. Everything is unknown. And that's what we're supposed to be. If you live in the moment, then the unknown is not a concern of yours, because you live in the moment. But most of us don't do that. Neither do I. So right now we're in the highest, at 0 out of 10, we're probably at an 8 of the unknown. Nobody knows what's going to happen, when, how, Why? And that unknown is what's scaring the bejesus out of everybody, no matter where you're at on the playing field. So this is an opportunity, an invitation for us to live more in the moment. The other thing is a tribe, right? When we want to become popular, when we want to become the best-selling author or a YouTuber or somebody in the public or even locally, that you're busy, your business, your career is thriving because you're busy, because people want your services. Why do you want that? To make money? That's what a lot of people say. So that you can leave your husband and be independent financially. I have a lot of clients say that, right? So that you can give your children everything that you need. Sure, I guess those are all great placeholders, but that's not the real answer. The real answer is so that you feel like you belong. Everybody wants to belong. And we don't feel that way because we don't have it. Some people have it in little pockets of the world. Actually, the most poorest countries, they have it amongst each other. You watch the movie Happy, the documentary Happy. They prove that. The more poor, the more community. The less they had, materialistically, the more they had socially, collectively. And the reason that we want that is because we want to feel a part of that tribe. The reason that we pick a team is so we're part of that tribe. The reason that we follow a leader is because we're part of that tribe. The reason that we follow an author or a YouTuber is because we become a part of that tribe. It doesn't make it right or wrong or good or bad. So I'm going to end that here. I think that's a lot to digest. And Andrea, thank you for joining me, and everybody else who's popped in and out, and anyone else who's going to be listening to this later on. Namaste. Oh, I would love your feedback. And if you want to know if you're Plutonian or Uranian, ask HollyHall.com. Get a reading. I have some openings for February. Namaste.